Today, I'm very happy to be joined by our Houston Rockets courtside reporter and host on AT&T SportsNet, Cayleigh Griffin. How are you doing today?
I am doing well. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. And I just wanted to say on behalf of the other Rockets fans and myself, we are huge fans of your work. I think you do a tremendous job covering the team during the game as well as the post game. And on Rockets All Access, you asked really great questions, and I just wanted to tell you that.
Oh, thank you so much. That means a lot. I put a lot of work into getting to this spot, and it really means a lot when I hear that people appreciate the work that's been put in.
Yeah, a lot of people, on Twitter are just really loving the broadcast this year. And, the results may have not necessarily gone our way the whole time this past season, but this young Rockets team, seems to be a lot of fun. And I'm sure it must have been a blast just covering the team during the season. A lot of interesting personalities. It must have been just, even though the results weren't going our way, I think it must have been really fun just being there.
Yeah, it's a different team to cover. Throughout my career, I've covered a lot of ups and downs with different teams. So when I came here, the team looked completely different than it does now, and we were on a totally different path in terms of competing for a championship. And now we're looking to build for the future. So I think it just puts a different perspective on things when you're covering a team that's going through a different phase. And there's a lot of young, really talented players on this team. And I think it makes it fun because it's totally different than the team we had before. And so these young players appreciate different things. They're more inclined to want to do media. They want to be in front of the camera. They want to do things and show their personality. So that can be really fun. And it's exciting to have them at such a young stage in their career, to be able to watch them continue to grow and to continue to showcase their journeys through the NBA, with so many of them starting off so young.
Yeah, this team is really young, but they're a lot of fun. Just, they have a lot of great plays this season, just seem to be electric at times on the court. A lot of fun guys. And, what was your favorite moment covering the Rockets this season? Because for me, I thought it was the win against the Lakers at home. I think it was in March. That game was really exciting because it went into overtime. Jalen Green had a great performance in that game. And Eric Gordon, he had like an amazing play on LeBron early in that one. So, what would be your favorite moment?
I would say I probably had two. I love the 7-game winning streak at the beginning of the season. That was so much fun because the team had just come off that 15-game losing streak, and it was actually, they made history. No team had ever done that, come off a 15-game losing streak and put together such a winning streak. So that was really exciting. There was a lot of confidence around the team. The guys were feeling good, and that was really fun to cover. It's obviously a lot more fun to cover wins, especially with the young team that's finding themselves. So they were really finding a good rhythm during that stretch, and that was a lot of fun to cover. And then I would say the win against Memphis. I had a chance to be in the booth that game, and we were not honestly anticipating a win against the Grizzlies, the second best team in the NBA. And the Rockets came out swinging, and they had an incredible performance. Kevin Porter Jr. put up 19 in the third quarter. It was a lot of fun to cover that game. So I think that's what makes it fun covering a young team, is you don't really know. You think you might know going into a game what the results are going to be, but sometimes they surprise you. And that game was certainly one that surprised us in a good way. And it was a lot of fun to cover.
Yeah, that you're mentioning that you're in the broadcast booth. I think you should get in the booth a few more times next season. Hopefully, we'll see you there a lot more because I think a lot of fans really like the three people. I thought that was a lot of fun. And yeah, that Memphis game definitely was impressive. And this team, they surprise you a lot on games where maybe you don't think they might pull it off. They do, and that's what makes it a lot of fun this season. And I think you have a really unique vantage point during the games on the sideline. What's an observation about the team that maybe you think people don't really talk about much, something that stands out to you from watching on the court side?
Um, it is an interesting spot because I am seating right next to the bench, so I do get to see what goes on and off. I have the perspective of who's going off with injuries, who's just making their way to the locker room, who's leading by example, voices on the bench who are kind of coaching guys up. And I think we saw that a lot this season, whether it was players who were traded or waived throughout the season. Daniel Tice, DJ Augustine, those players were super vocal at the beginning of the season on the bench. And that was really cool for me to be able to witness, to watch some of these older guys we got. And then later in the season, it was Dennis Schroeder who played a big role in becoming a player coach when he wasn't playing down the stretch of the game. So to kind of see those things is super helpful. Obviously, you see the emotions of some of the players as well, which you can or cannot use in the broadcast, depending on how those emotions are come across. But for me, I also get to sit in and watch practices and shoot around. So I gain a lot of perspective in terms of what the team is working on. And a lot of that this season was defense. And so for me, it was really rewarding to see things that they worked on in practice play over into game action. So from my vantage point, I do get some perks in terms of having extra access that helps me a lot in the broadcast. And it's super helpful because we are kind of the eyes and ears of this team. And so to have that access is extremely helpful in terms of bringing different perspectives to the broadcast and helping the fans see a different side of the team.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to, be able to like take a listen at what the team is doing. And we really enjoy that on the broadcast. And I think all Rockets fans are really excited about Jalen Green and how much talent he's shown throughout this past season. I know that you've had chances to speak with him and interview him. So tell us a little bit more about his personality.
Yeah, Jalen is great. I mean, he's a young player. He just turned 20, so he is still a kid. And I think a lot of people forget that with so many of these players on this team is that they're kids and they forget to think about what they were doing when they were 19, 20, 21 years old. And they're trying to juggle being a 19-year-old, a 20-year-old, and also being a professional and everything that comes with that. So he's a great kid. He's learning how to be a pro. He had to go through a lot of ups and downs, and he took a lot of weight on his shoulder from the beginning of the season, being the number 2 pick. He knew there was going to be pressure there. He knew that people were expecting him to perform at a certain level. And right away, he might not have performed to the level that he wanted to, or that people expected him to right away. But as the season went on, he certainly took on those responsibilities. He exceeded expectations, I'd say, as we got down the stretch and was putting up consistently incredible performances. So we kind of got a taste of what Jalen Green can be in those final 2.5 months. And that's really exciting because I think now people can see that, the Rockets really got a gem in Jalen Green and that he is going to be here for a long time and someone that they look to build around. And like I said, see him as a player. He's quiet. He keeps to himself, but he is also 20 years old. I think he's kind of finding his way as well. And I think we'll see more of his personality as seasons go on because he was just trying to find his way and deal with the pressure of being a number 2 pick and performing to a certain level right away.
Yeah, I was really impressed with how his performances were specifically after the All-Star break, and then really to end the season the way he did with 41 points against the Atlanta Hawks. I thought that was truly impressive. And I saw that you were also working with the Cavs when KPJ was drafted by them. So you've been following his career closely from some time. So tell me about his development. What you've seen from him over the years.
Yeah, I'm super proud of KPJ. We have had a close relationship. So I was actually his very first interview when he was drafted. He was technically not a Cavs pick. I think he was Milwaukee's pick. So we weren't even supposed to be interviewing him, but we kind of went off in a corner at Barclays Center and got an interview so we could use it in a couple days when it became official that he was going to Cleveland. So I think we instantly had that bond where we just met right away when he was first starting his NBA journey. And then I was only in Cleveland through summer league that year, but I got to see him during summer league before taking the Houston job. So it was kind of a full circle moment for him and for me when he was traded here to Cleveland. And I think right away that kind of helped him ease in terms of knowing somebody from a year ago when he first started in the NBA. And he's an incredible player. He's been put into a lot of different situations. When he was in Cleveland, he was playing more of the 3, the 4. He was more of a big guard, small forward, and now he's taking on the role of being a point guard, which is a position he hasn't played since high school. So he's had to make a lot of adjustments and a lot has been thrown at him to juggle. And again, he's 20, we just turned 22. So he was 21 years old all season long trying to navigate some of these things. And he's had his fair share of challenges as well, but he has really put his head down and is committed to putting in the work to better himself as a person and as a player. And I think a lot of the things he's been through, whether it was going to the G League last year, finding his way in terms of just becoming a better leader and taking on those more responsibilities. I think they're all coming together for him, and it's really exciting because he has really bought into this new role, and he wants to be the backcourt with Jalen Green, and that's really exciting because they're so young and so raw and so talented that the future is so bright for them. And I think we're just starting to begin to see something special with the two of them.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of KPJ, and I'm really excited that we have this really young backcourt, and hopefully they're going to be here for a very long time. And they're both going to be bright stars on this team. I'm really excited to have them both as a Houston Rocket. And when I interviewed Craig Ackerman, I asked him this question as well: is there a player that you think would be a best fit for the Rockets in this upcoming NBA draft? Because we do have the lottery coming up really soon. Because I think it's a choice really between Jabari Smith, Paulo Banchero, and Chet Holmgren. I think it's a really exciting time. So, is there any particular player that you might think the Rockets would be better off with?
I probably won't go into specifics just because I will eventually be interviewing this person
Yeah.
in probably a month or so. So I'm going to be excited for whoever the Rockets end up getting, and we'll know next week, actually a week from today, where the Rockets pick 1 through 5. So that's really exciting, knowing that the draft lottery is coming up. And I try to keep things into perspective because obviously everyone wants that top pick. They want to have that ability. But when I was in Cleveland that year, the Cavs had the worst record and they ended up falling to the 5 pick, but they drafted Darius Garland, who is an all-star in his 3rd season. So it's like you really don't know what's going to happen, and you can still get an absolute incredible player at number 5. So I'm just trying to keep my eyes, open, keep everything open in terms of whoever the Rockets get. I think the front office has done an incredible job. They did an incredible job drafting this year. I do think the Rockets could use some size. They have a lot of guards, so I think a big would be helpful. But there are a number of players that fit the big position that are at the top of the draft. So I think size is something that the Rockets might be looking to address. But if they add another young piece and can make it work, then it's going to be really exciting too. So and any player that the Rockets get, I really have a lot of confidence in the front office in terms of what they were able to do with this past draft, that we're going to get a good piece.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think Rafael Stone has done a tremendous job with this rebuild so far. We still have a lot of picks left, and the players that we've gotten, they've all turned out are really good. They've all been great fit, and so I definitely trust the management to make the right decision here. And I think I saw an episode of Rockets All Access where I think you were playing a game of horse against Josh Christopher, and I thought you played really great against him. I mean, did you ever play any sports like in high school or anything?
Oh yeah, I played basketball and volleyball throughout high school. I was being recruited pretty heavily for both going into college. I played club basketball in college, but I had kind of passed when I was going to pick schools. I was kind of done with my actual playing career. So I definitely have a little game. I didn't want to lead on to Josh that I could take him on a little bit. He walked in thinking he was going to smoke me right away. So I kind of let him just come in with that attitude. And yeah, I gave him a pretty good game. And I still think that we might need a rematch because he dunked, which is definitely illegal in a game of force, unless you're playing against all NBA players. But no, I cannot dunk. So Josh and I might be playing another game of force eventually because I think we need a rematch.
Yeah, for sure. That would be amazing. And I was wondering, how did you get into sports reporting? Because I think it's a career that a lot of people want to get into. It's a really awesome job. So how did that become really like a pathway for you?
Yeah, so like I said, I played sports basically my whole entire life. Both of my parents were college athletes. My younger sister played college basketball. So we're a sports family. And I kind of knew that I wanted sports to continue into my career. I just didn't know how I wanted to incorporate that for a while. And I'd say probably my senior year of high school is when I took it more seriously. I was always a big writer. Writing was my passion. And so I kind of looked towards journalism and something that I could probably be good at. I'm a naturally introverted person. I don't like I don't like attention on me, but I'm very comfortable speaking in social settings and speaking in front of people. So I was like, okay, maybe this is something that I could tie everything in together with. And I ended up going to Providence College in Rhode Island, and they don't have communications at all as a major, but we have probably the biggest women's sports broadcaster coming out of school in Doris Burke. So it's obviously there's a pathway somewhere. And I just love the school. And at 17 years old, I was like, you know what, if it's meant to be, then I'll find a way. And I went in undeclared and kind of figured out that I still wanted to do it. So I had a ton of internships in college, probably 6 or 7. And then my junior year in college, I started calling high school basketball, volleyball games, any game I could get on this local cable channel, just trying to build a reel. And that was super helpful for me. And then following graduation, I felt like I had done pretty much everything I could to get a job, but still didn't have a job. Fortunately, I had interned at NBC Universal for 2 summers. So I had ended up taking like a part-time job at NBC Sports when I graduated. And right around that time, the Big East was launching a digital network, and I went to a Big East school. So I kind of reached out to them on a whim and said, hey, my name is Cayleigh, just graduated from Providence. Here's my reel, here's my resume. I don't know if you guys are hiring or how you're planning on operating this digital network, but I would love to help in any way that I could. And they, to my surprise, reached back out, and I started coming in on like a 2 days a week basis, just helping them edit their digital content. It was really simple, but that led to them eventually letting me do some on-camera stuff, and it kind of just grew from there. So it was honestly me reaching out on a whim, just seeing if they needed help, leading to them eventually allowing me to do some on-air work. And I had the privilege of covering Villanova winning the national championship in 2016, actually here in Houston. I covered lacrosse. Denver lacrosse won the national championship. I was covering all these different sports, which was amazing, just getting my feet wet and everything. So I did that for 2 years, and I was living at home. I'm from Connecticut, and I was working in New York City and was commuting into the city. And then after that, I kind of was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, I could stay here for another year. And I was planning on it, but I also wanted to explore other things. So I was happened to watch a summer league game, and the Spurs were playing, and I kind of was just Googling teams, Googling literally every team in every professional sport, any team at all. And I searched the Spurs, and they that day had posted that they had a digital reporter job open. So I applied to it on a whim, and then started reaching out to contacts I had from the Big East, people I knew at the NBA, just trying to get people to just get my resume in front of the right people. And I ended up getting it in front of the right people. They flew me down to San Antonio, and to my surprise, they offered me the job, and I worked it for the Spurs for 2 years as their digital reporter. And I think people, they kind of blend all these together, but what I did in San Antonio is so different than what I do here. I was working for the team. I was mostly a producer, creating their digital content, doing some on-air stuff, but it was really a lot of behind the scenes and doing a lot of more community events. But again, it got me in with a team, and that was really cool. And after 2 years there, they cut my job. They just cut the role altogether. And at 25, I was unemployed and trying to figure out what the heck I was going to do. So I packed up, moved back to Connecticut, and I was freelancing, just picking up any gigs while trying to interview for jobs, and nothing was really coming together for me. And then I saw, like, right in the middle of September that the Cavs job was opening. I didn't end up getting the sideline job, but they really liked me, which was great. And they had heard good things about me from San Antonio. And so they created this digital role for me, which was great, got me back into the NBA. And I was covering the team in different ways, whether it was digital content, some pre and post game stuff. But again, most importantly, got me back in the NBA, which was super important for me. And then I was working summer league for the NBA and planning on coming back for another year when the Rockets job opened. And I, on a whim, was like, all right, we're going to try and see. And I came down here and I auditioned, and I ended up getting the job, and I've been here for 3 years. So it has certainly been a process. It has not been an easy one. I've moved across the country multiple times. I think my parents want to kill me. But it has been a rewarding journey for me, I would say. I ultimately, like, this is a job that I dreamed of, and I'm so happy to get here. And I just think, social media is really misleading, because people think that everyone just has this perfect path, but a lot of people have no idea the journey that I've had to go through. And no one would have assumed that I had lost my job when I did and was out of work for 6 months and trying to figure it out. So I'm grateful to be here in Houston. I love being here and working for the Rockets. It's been so much fun. I have an incredible crew. But I just think it's super important for people to understand that what you see isn't always what it is, and that this job field in particular can be really tricky because there's so few opportunities, and you just have to really be willing to go through the grind of the process of moving and getting a job and not getting a job. And so it's been a rewarding but tough process for me, for sure.
I mean, that's truly amazing. I thank you so much for sharing how your story into that. I think that's really incredible. It takes a lot of dedication to do that, and I think that's really helpful for people who are trying to get into sports reporting as well. So yeah, that was really amazing, and I wanted to ask you about the broadcast. I know you and Calvin Murphy do the post game, and that's really amazing. And I know it was his birthday actually a few days ago. So, I mean, you guys seem to have a blast on the broadcast. How's it like working with him? Because I think, his suits always stand out to me. That's like, he's got like all kinds of amazing suits. So like, tell me a little bit about, how it's like working with him.
Yeah, Calvin is the absolute best. So he's from Norwalk, Connecticut, and I'm from Stamford, Connecticut. They're actually like 2 towns away from each other. So we have a lot in common in terms of where we grew up and knowing similar places that a lot of people down here obviously just don't know because many people have not been to Connecticut before. So we instantly bonded over where we grew up. But Calvin is just the best. He is so funny. He's so genuine. He's so knowledgeable, obviously. He's a Hall of Fame basketball player, and his knowledge of the game, even at 74, is top notch. He is so aware of what is happening in the league, throughout the league. His analysis is second to none. And it is always so much fun to work with him because I never know what to expect. I always know it's going to be entertaining, but he always makes it easy for me. And that's what is incredible being a host next to him, is knowing that I have someone who's got my back and I've got his back. And so we just bonded instantly when we started working together during the bubble. And I've been really fortunate to continue to work with him throughout the season. Not as much this year because we were back on the road traveling, but every time I get a chance to work with Calvin, I'm always excited to do so.
Yeah, I love tuning in to the Rockets post game. I think you guys doing a great job. And is there like any funny story that you have like behind the scenes this year, like in interactions between the players or anything that really stands out to you?
That's a tough one. I'll have to think about it. I don't,
Okay.
off the top of my head, I don't have like a moment that I'm thinking of that was really funny. We've had some interesting trips happen this year. We went to Memphis during when there was a storm that was like, it was like tornadoes in Memphis, and we flew through it, and that was crazy. And I feel like it was a bonding experience for everybody because we were all like gripping the seats on this plane, just hoping, praying that we were going to be okay. So we've had some interesting travel moments, I would say, this year more than anything. I'm trying to think if there's like a funny moment that I can think of. None are on the top of my head, but I will let you know if I think of any.
Yeah, I heard about that flight actually in Memphis, and I saw that, it was really bad weather. So it was great that you guys that nothing severe happened. But yeah, that I heard about that as well. And last question for you. I mean, what would your NBA Finals pick be right now? Because for me, I would go with the Suns and Celtics. I mean, these series have been really awesome. I think the Mavericks, they can definitely win, but I would say I think the Suns come out of the West. I just think they're gonna find a way. They haven't been playing too great recently, but I feel like they'll step up and play their brand of basketball. And I like the Celtics from the East because they just play really good defense. I think they've done. Giannis has played amazing, but I do think that they've stepped up at the right times and they fight till the very end. So who would be your 2 picks?
Yes, I'm going to go with the Suns as well. I've been riding the Suns bandwagon for a while. I've said that I think that them going to the finals last year really changed things for them. I agree. I love that all these series besides the Warriors, Grizzlies are 2-2. I think it makes it so much more entertaining, so much more interesting. I'm locked in, waiting to see, but I have to agree with the Suns. I think Dallas is incredibly talented. I think Phoenix just has a little bit more now that they're back in Phoenix. I think that's going to give them the edge tonight. And I am thinking that they're going to pull away. And I think the Warriors will get to the finals, the Western Conference Finals. But I was watching some shows today, and I agree that I don't know if they've been tested enough. I think Minnesota and Memphis just don't have enough playoff experience. So I think Phoenix is going to get it done for the West. The East is where it is interesting for me. I am not entirely sure. I'm leaning towards Milwaukee just because I feel like we've seen so many up and down performances offensively from Boston. Both teams have been incredible defensively. If Al Horford can continue to put up 30-point performances, then I could be definitely wrong. But I just feel like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown haven't been clicking on the same when they need to at the same time, which Boston needs to happen if they're going to win. And I'm thinking about how incredible Milwaukee's been without Chris Middleton, and imagine if they got him back. So my gut is telling me Milwaukee, but it could be Miami for all I know. I honestly, I feel like the East is way more wide open than the West.
Yeah, I totally agree. In the East, I feel like you could have the Heat making it. I mean, the Sixers could pull it off. I mean, the East is really unpredictable, and it's really going to be a fun finish in NBA playoffs. But Cayleigh, thank you so much for doing this interview. I really appreciate the time. It was great talking with you, and I'll be posting the interview soon. So hope you can retweet it and give me a follow. I appreciate it.
Great. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Good night.